Now, another trigger for the cephalic phase gastric secretion is vagal input coming from the vagus nerve. And this vagal input is actually coming from the dorsal vagal complex. During the cephalic phase, this dorsal vagal complex is giving vagal input to the vagus nerve. This vagus nerve being distributed along the GIT is causing, because of this vagal input, is causing the release of GRP, gastrin releasing peptide, or another name is bombacin, and the release of acetylcholine. These both will, this acetylcholine will bind to the gland cells that will further initiate the secretion of mucus, acid, and all these factors discussed previously. This GRP will activate the G cells in the antral region of the stomach, and this will produce more and more gastrin. But this is all before we have ingested the meal, so the secretions are limited. Here the secretions are limited. As we ingest the meal, after it is being swallowed, the constituents of the meal will trigger. The meal constituents will itself, that is a gastric phase, and the constituents of meal itself will trigger the release of gastrin, and the physical presence of these constituents will lead to stomach distension. And because of this stomach distension, there will be activated stretch receptors. There will be activated stretch receptors. These stretch receptors will provoke a vagovagal reflex plus local reflexes as well. All these reflexes will amplify the gastric secretions, and all this is taking place in gastric phase. Now, in this phase, the gastric acidity must be buffered, because if it does not take place, it will give an inhibitory signal to shut off the secretion because of somatostatin. Because the secretions include acid, and if we are already having acid, it means the lumen is full of acidity, and it will, just like this, if we are having more and more acid in our lumen, it will be further telling these D cells to release somatostatin. Now this somatostatin will be having an inhibitory effect on the G cells in the antrum of the stomach that release this gastrin. If this gastrin is not being released, then we will not having the secretions from gastric glands. We are not having secretions from gastric glands. and this normally happens when the meal has left the stomach and entered the duodenum. But until and unless the meal has not left the stomach, but until and unless it is in the stomach, we have to buffer this gastric acidity, and this is buffered by the meal, buffered by meal itself.